So I said that I would do a short video on standing post. So standing post Qigong is actually not really like a single Qigong. It's a whole bunch of different types of Qigong all done while standing. So I normally do a little bit of standing before I do meditation anyway. I normally do a little bit different variant of what we're going to do this time, but the most important place to start is with health standing Qigongs. These are incredibly powerful, they really are, but most people don't really have the patience to find the benefits for them. So I mean, if you really want to put some time in order to get the structure and the alignment of the body to work and to start gaining the health benefits, I would say you got to do at least 30 days, ideally 3 months, right? 100 days to get the foundation, as they say. But there's lots of different postures. The one we're going to do is like the standard. So I'm standing, I know you can't see my feet, but my feet are about shoulder width to shoulder width and a half apart. Okay, I do all of my standing tall like the monkey first. So I'm trying to get my neck to elongate, tucking in my chin. I'm sinking my chest, pulling my breastbone down towards my navel. I'm tucking my tailbone downwards so that it points to between my heels, C1, right? Center point 1 ends up between my heels. I don't want to tuck too far, so it's pointing outwards, and I don't want to tuck too little, so it's pointing behind me. It has to be right in line with that, that line between my heels. So that gives me my verticality, okay? My shoulders stay down. Now I check to make sure that everything else looks like it's in alignment. My feet are pointing straight ahead. People have a tendency either to be kind of duck-footed outwards or pigeon-toed inwards. Neither of those things is really good for your joints, right? So you want to make sure that all of your posture and all of your alignment is in place before you really start doing anything. So all that seems to be under control. Now, the posture, with my shoulders down, I'm going to reach out, and it's like I'm grabbing onto something. I'm going to put my hands a little low so you can see my face still. But this should be right out in front of my heart. Okay, so that's here. Oh, actually, you can still see me. And it's like I'm holding a big beach ball. Okay, some people call this tree hugging posture or whatever. This is called standing stake, standing post Qigong. Okay, now there's a whole bunch of different relationships at work here, and health standing post starts off with just literally trying to release as much unnecessary muscular tension as possible, all the way from the top of your body to the bottom, and checkpointing everything on the way down. So it's not just about muscular release, but it has to do with alignment as well too. Okay, so I'm going to just take us through the alignments first. So from the top of the head, I'm going to make sure that Bai Hui, the very crown of my head, is pointed upwards. That means that I need to tuck in my chin. Okay, I need my ears to be over my shoulders. So I can't have this kind of a thing going on. I need to pull my neck backwards so my neck elongates, my ears are over my shoulders. My nose should be over my navel. Okay, that's really important, and my ears should be level. And you can find all kinds of things if you do this like with a camera or with a mirror that you think are normal, right? So like some people I've seen, you know, literally with a head tilt, they'll start and they'll be like, yeah, I'm straight. And they just don't have any idea that they don't hold their head where it belongs, okay? They could be past injuries and all kinds of things. Now, my shoulders need to be down, my scapula, my shoulder blades need to be put in my back pockets. So it's like I'm pulling my shoulder blades down, okay, a little tiny bit, and that seats my shoulders in their joints. My chest needs to lower. Now my arms need to be elbows lower than my wrists and my shoulders, okay? Palms are facing towards my heart. And there's a space under each arm as though I could put like a tennis ball in there, okay? That's basically the posture. And then my fingertips need to be relaxed, okay? We'll talk about relaxation in a minute, but I need to keep them relaxed so they're just in their natural fall here. I'm not doing anything with my fingers. I'm just totally releasing them and letting them sit in place, okay? As I work down the body, okay, I'm going to get down to my lower back. So again, my C1 point, I'm making sure it's pointed, that's my tailbone, pointed between my heels. Now, my rib cage needs to be settled on top of my hips. Now, what that means is that I'm not holding myself up. This is a part of sinking the chest, but you can actually put too much tension here and sink your chest with lots of tension, and then you end up opening up your lats and stuff, right? It's more like if I were to try to get my body to elongate, I'm trying to get it to release downwards so that my ribs are trying to sit right through my obliques onto my pelvic girdle, okay? So now the points of my pelvis should both be pointing forward, okay? I shouldn't have any kind of displacement here. My heart above my belly button above Huiyin, which is the crotch. Okay, it's actually the perineum. And then, once we get down to there, I'm looking at where my hips are in relationship to my feet. So my hips need to be above my feet. So this is why you can't stand too wide. It's not really good for you. Okay, not in a health Qigong anyway. So you want to make sure that your hips are above your feet and that your knees, when you look down, are above your feet as well. They're on rails, right? So my kneecaps are above my feet. I don't want to have anything turned in or turned out. I don't want to have, one weight on one side or the other. And particularly, I'm supposed to be 50-50. Because my weight is supposed to transfer through my knees down towards my feet. It's not supposed to be held in my knees. And if your knees are in or out too far, then what ends up happening is it'll suspend some of your weight. Same thing happens in your quad. We'll talk about that too. Okay? Now, my heels and my toes, so I'm going to talk about the foot, the heel of the foot, and the toes, if you will, they need to be equally pressured towards the ground. So my weight can't be falling on my back of my feet with my heels, and I can't be leaning too far forward onto my toes. I want to, in fact, like what I was taught, is to gently kind of rock back and forth a little bit with your weight until you find it spreading itself kind of all over the foot. You want to make the arch of the foot do the work, okay? And if you have a pressure point, and you'll know if you stand even a couple of minutes here, you'll have pressure points if your weight's not distributed properly. Then you can find where it is. So is my weight too far on my heels? Is it too far on my toes? Is it too much on the outside of the foot? Am I actually collapsing and putting it on the inside of my foot? Okay, that means that my knees have collapsed usually. All of that kind of stuff. So you want to have the feet to be really, really equal. It's really important. Now, relaxation. Okay, so relaxation. I'm gonna start standing a little bit here, and I'll just run kind of the checklist through my head, and I'll just verbalize it. And then we'll talk a little tiny bit about the quad. So I get my posture all checked, right? I'm in a decent place. And now for relaxation, what I would do is I'd be standing. I've just done all my posture checks. And then I'd be going through, looking from the top of my head at Bai Hui. Is there any muscle that I can release in the top of my head? Right? Because there's muscles all through the head and neck. And I bring my awareness down towards my eyebrows and that crown of the head, right, as though I was wearing a hat. Is there anything I can release there? And I continue down. Am I squinting? Am I crunching my forehead? Am I tightening anything that can move my ears or pull my eyebrows? All the way down to my cheeks. Am I tightening anything inside of my cheeks? Is my neck, where my head and my neck meet, is that relaxed? This is a big tension spot, especially for me, right? So I need to look at that. Where's the release taking place in my neck? Am I able to release my jaw and my neck without opening my jaw? In Qigong, you need to have your teeth lightly closed and your tongue touching the roof of your mouth. Just gently though, okay? Don't clench your teeth. It's really important. Okay? So now, because I know that I've already checked my posture and everything's good there, I continue down into my chest. Is there anything that I'm holding in my shoulders, first of all, that I can let go of? So for instance, if I was standing like this and I couldn't tell, eventually what happens, one of the benefits of standing is you give it enough time, this will eventually drop. You'll let go, even of things that you're unconscious about. But ideally, I go down and I find like Jianjing, the shoulder well here, right? And I look through here. I'm just doing this mentally. I'm just exaggerating it with my hands. I'm looking all through this set of muscularity to see if there's anything I can release. If there's anything that's really difficult to release, I'm going to breathe with it. So let's say that I'm having a really hard time with my shoulders. So I'll be breathing. I find like my shoulders are too tense. I just take a nice deep breath in. And as I breathe out, I sort of try to breathe out that tension. I just relax and release whatever I'm feeling in there. And you continue this all the way down the body. So through your chest, upper back, down your ribs. When you get to your stomach, you need to let your stomach fall. Okay, there's always an amount of tonus in there. You're actually going to try to release anything that's extraneous other than the tonus of being alive. Okay, so your stomach's going to stick out, which culturally is inappropriate, right? We have a sexuality in our culture that wants us to pull our stomachs in, but that ends up with bad posture, gives you really bad habits. And what we're trying to do is release and open everything. So I release the stomach. Okay, and now I release everything, all the obliques, everything I can find in my lower back, and then I get to my hips. So I'm here and I'm good, and now I feel heavy on my hips. Okay, now if you feel the weight, how do you explain that? If you feel like your weight is being suspended in your hips or in your quad, and you're feeling here more than you're feeling your feet, what's happening is that there's tension or misalignment in the lower parts of the body. Okay, the quad is the place where the lower and upper body communicate. So I have to pay very close attention to this. So there's a whole bunch of muscular insertions that come around into the quad, right? And by releasing the bigger muscle groups, you can get the lower or smaller muscle groups to start to release as well. So I know when I was starting this, the biggest thing was actually my buttocks. If I could release my glutes, and you can release your glutes pretty much entirely and still stand, okay? But look, if I tense them, it picks my body up, picks my weight up. If I release them, it's a pretty substantial thing that happens. Now, I got my glutes released. I'm still feeling something in the front of the quad. That generally means that my weight is not equal on my feet, right? Because now my glutes have let go. The front hasn't let go, so my weight's falling into my heels. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to rock my weight forward till I find about a 50-50, and then I'm going to try to straighten up my pelvis. So when I was backwards and I rocked forward, my pelvis wanted to come forward, all right, and point down slightly. So I'm trying to even it out over top of a nice 50-50 feeling in my feet. And that lets me release a lot more muscularity evenly around my quad. Okay, and that's really important. Because if this isn't together and not communicating, you literally made it so you can't get to really high levels of relaxation, which means you're not going to cultivate dantian all the way. You just can't. Now, once we get this feeling, okay, and now I need to look, I've looked at forward and backward on the feet. I need to look at, is my weight even? Okay, because sometimes if you have an injury, like say in a knee, one of your legs will be slightly tighter than the other. So you'll actually favor it, you'll keep some weight off of it, stuff like that. You need to level it all out. So if you're feeling an unequalness left and right, this is the time where you start releasing. So I'm releasing my thighs, and I'm releasing everything I can and feeling my weight fall. So I did feel it come to here, I released the quad, I felt it hit my thighs. Now as I release my thighs, keep my glutes released, I can feel, it's almost like I can feel my thigh bones pushing on my knees now, on my knee joint. So now I'm standing on my knees this is the terminology Sammy and I use a lot of. So now instead of standing on my hips, I'm standing on my knees, okay? It's great, I've moved it down a foot. Now in the knees, I have to make sure again that they're over my feet. If I have a knee in or a knee out, then muscularity will engage to keep myself from injuring it, ideally. So I need to release as much muscularity around the knee as I possibly can without falling. So this is literally like going into that, I'm almost a puddle, right? I'm trying to relax everything and see how little it actually takes for me to hold my position. I'd still be here. I'm just talking with my hands, okay? Now, if I'm feeling any tension on the inside or the outside of the knees, that's generally them needing to be moved, or it's the weight needing to be moved around on the feet. And at this point, if you're down to your knees, you don't move your weight around with your upper body. You're going to move your weight around with your pelvis. So if I need my weight to go to my toes more, all right, I'll bring my pelvis forward, and I'm not going to even tip it. I'm just going to bring my tailbone closer to the center between my feet. See, and that's a huge one. That made a huge difference. If I'm at my heels still, I tend to have my weight on my heels. So now that I've really noticed I've gotten down to my knees, I go to the center in between my feet, so I'm like in between the arches of my feet now. Weight feels good, relaxing more and more and more. Knees feel good now. And I've had knee surgery, right? I can really feel my knees if there's an issue in it. Now, getting down from your knees to through your calves, you're trying to release all of those muscles in the calves that tend to do a lot of shaking and standing. And that's because they're firing to keep your balance, right? Because people will start doing spontaneous Qigong movement, which generally has to do with their feet and their calves at first. You'll get all kinds of weird stuff in your upper body too. But generally, when you see people rocking, that's what it is. So now if I can release, let me get back into position here. If I can release, there. If I can release everything all the way down through my calves, and my feet feel like they're 50-50 on the floor, I've made it into the posture. So now I've been standing here, all right, and done 2 checks. First one, I checked all my alignments. Second one, I check all my releases. Now, if I've checked my alignments and my releases and now I'm standing without any of that, I can focus on my breath. So we're going to do Buddhist breathing, which is that when you inhale, the belly expands. When you exhale, the belly contracts. But remember, that doesn't mean forward and back with your belly. That means the entire sphere should open and close. So I should feel my kidneys being pushed on, right? I should feel my back opening up. If somebody touched my sides when I breathe, they should feel it pushing outwards. And of course, the stomach. The stomach's the easy part. So I'm breathing in and I'm breathing out nice and slow. And I keep my mind on my dantian, right? Just behind my navel. And if a thought passes through my head, which it will, I go back and I do my releases. So I'm like, oh, that feels pretty good. I'm kind of hungry. Got to check the releases. So I'm going to go back and I go through that whole process again of aligning and releasing all the way down to the bottom of my body, making sure my feet are level as far as their weight, and back to my breath. And then this is a meditation at this point. Okay? So there's two kinds of meditation that you do here, but we're just going to start with, if I start thinking about anything other than this, I go back and do all my releases. And that's it. So in a perfect world, you'll be able to stand in this posture for, say, 5 minutes at first. It feels like an eternity when you've never done it. Okay? Because what ends up happening is that you muscularly end up holding your arms in position. And eventually your arms will feel really, really heavy. And then you'll feel a big moment of release coming, right? You'll probably start shaking. And then your body's going to want to let go. And then you can notice that after you've let go, you can still stand there. And that's what we're doing with this. We're taking a position, wearing out the muscle groups we're finding unnecessary, right? Because we are going to physiologically check and see what is unnecessary for muscular tension here. And I'm going to continue to release the entire time that I'm standing. The only requirements are that I can't ever, get to the point where it drops my arms or screws up my weight or I fall down or any of that kind of stuff. This is how you end up with swung, okay? And this is really important for root. Rooting starts when your body weight is no longer suspended in your muscle. So the more muscle you contract, you can hold yourself up with, the less of your body weight, if you think about it this way, hits the ground effectively, okay? So the more I can release this, think about it like, say I'm a big bag of water. If I've got water inside my torso and I tighten everything up under my legs, tighten my whole torso up, the water is suspended here. So even though the weight of the water is touching the ground, the water itself isn't. Okay? So every time I release something, the water flows further and further and further and further until it makes it to the earth. And that's what we're trying to get. We're trying to be like water, my friends. So hopefully that makes sense. I think I covered all the basics. Buddhist breathing, concentrate on dantian. Anytime a thought enters the head, go back and release again. Anytime you start shaking, release again. Anytime it feels like too much, do 10 seconds more. Okay? There's people that can do this for an hour at a time. Like, you can spend a lifetime in this practice, truly. And the benefits are really remarkable, actually, for stress release and things like that. Oh, just trying to think if there's anything I missed. The eyes. You should be looking between this and that. Now, so I have a wall, right? I'm in my training room at my house. So if I'm looking at my wall is like 10 feet from me. What I'm actually looking at is not the detail of the wall. I'm trying to look at the space in between myself and the wall. I'm looking at empty space. So I'm softening my gaze. So I'm looking to the empty space and I'm gazing into the periphery. So I'm looking through my peripheral vision softly just to see what's around me. So remember, we were talking about this the other night. Looking is predatory vision. It's binocular, focusing on a target. And gazing is prey vision, right? It's my periphery looking for movement. So I'm looking at nothing, looking at space, and I'm gazing at everything and releasing. And just release over and over. Run that checklist, because what'll happen, I know with me, I'll find myself, 5 minutes in, and I've tensed up my buttocks to hold myself up because some other muscle group is being used up, right? And I have to let the body figure itself out, sort itself out. It's really important. And one of the secrets of stance training you can find in here, okay? And that is that when you start shaking, that's when the training has actually begun. Because when I start shaking, that means that a muscle group has tired out and other muscle groups are trying to take over that load. So my brain, right, and my nervous system are trying to find an answer to the work I'm putting them through. And that's the thing, is you want to get all the small muscle groups trained to do the work the big muscle groups are normally sent to do. That way you end up engaging more and more and more of your body when you do anything. So things like martial arts postures, which this is, okay, are really important to stand in long enough. Same thing with like horse stances and bow stances. But what ends up happening, truthfully, is that people don't stand in them long enough, right? As soon as they start to shake, they let go. And it's like, okay, so now you've done that stance really for like 5 seconds. Took you 2 minutes to get there, but now you trained for 5 seconds. And it's really important, and that's why standing people, like who do this a lot, they'll go like a long period of time. Because you keep getting stronger, your body keeps getting more efficient. Okay. Can't think of anything else off the top of my head. Oh, the feet. I'm starting to get it now. So my feet feel like they're opening, and it's painful, and you feel your weight. It's almost like the metatarsals, right? The little bones in the feet are being like pulled apart from one another. It's like my feet are flattening out on the ground. It's not a bad feeling. That's a good feeling. That's the feeling of all of this release of the water from earlier hitting my feet. It's actually actively hitting the ground now. Yeah. Put up with it as long as you can. Start in increments though. If you can only do 2 minutes, do 2 minutes. And then do 2 minutes and 10 seconds, 2 minutes and 20 seconds. Ideally get up to like 5, 10, 15 minutes. Yeah, if you have any questions, feel free to get a hold of me, okay? No problem at all. Neil Andrew Ripsky on Facebook, or train at redjade.ca.